All right, well, welcome back to term four. Obviously, this is not what any of us expected when it comes to what term four would look like and how we were going to tackle this class. But now that we are doing online learning for term four, I thought it would be good for me to kind of show you how I expect you to navigate the Google Classroom. And I also wanted to introduce some things. So, like, primarily what I'm thinking at this moment is this magazine project. Um, and so you might have heard of the magazine project, uh, but it obviously is going to look a little different now that we are online learning. But I'll talk about that in just a minute. So, first thing that I wanted to talk about is attendance. So, you can't see this on your Google Classroom yet. Most of this stuff that you see here cannot be seen on your Google Classroom, right? Only what is already colored right here. So, the syllabus and the online expectations. That's all you can see at this point. And that's just because it hasn't been posted yet. But as you can see, I have a lot planned for the term. And starting tomorrow, so that is the 16th, you're going to see right at the top of the screen, there's an attendance topic. It's like a whole topic in and of itself. And then within it, there's this assignment that says daily attendance for 16, so April 16th through May 29th. So that's the whole term. So what you're going to need to do is every day go into this form and you're going to select the date. Okay. So you can either do it through the calendar or you can type it either way. You're going to write your last name, you're going to write your first name, you're going to do the student ID number, and you're going to tell me what period you are in. And the reason for this is just because I use the same form for all of my classes just to make things simpler for me. So it is very important that you put the right period and you do the right spelling of your name and you have the right ID number, because if you don't do any of those, then you are not going to be marked as present for that day. And if that happens multiple times, then the school's going to have to get involved and it's going to be, messy. So for the date, you obviously can only do the date that you are turning this in. So, like, if it's the 16th, you can turn it in for the 16th. You can't do it for the 17th. If you do, it's not going to show up in the right list, and so it's not going to get counted. So you can't do attendance ahead of time, of course. So down here, there's just two quick questions. How are you doing today? Is there anything we can do to support you? So you're going to see some form of these two questions for probably every class's attendance, if I had to guess. Um, Basically, we want to make sure that all of our students are doing okay. And if there is anything that I myself as your teacher could do, or somebody else for the school or for the district might be able to do, it's just a place for you to kind of let us know so that maybe we can get going on some kind of support for you. If you are feeling totally fine, or if you're feeling anxious, or if you're feeling, you know, sad or whatever, and you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to give me any information, fine. Just put sad, just put fine, just put anxious or whatever. Like, I don't need explanation if you don't want to give it. Just tell me what you're comfortable with. And then down here, what is your learning plan for today? So for this, I'm totally fine with you saying, I plan on working on science and math today, or, I plan on taking a math quiz. Like, you don't have to do this in full sentences. You can just say math quiz and science assignment or something like that. Like, just kind of tell me what it is you plan to tackle that day. Um, and that's just kind of something that we want to keep track of as your teachers, just to make sure that your classes aren't getting ignored and you're able to focus and tackle this unprecedented um, situation, I guess you would say, uh, from an academic standpoint. And so you're going to have to submit this every single weekday, so Monday through Friday, starting on the 16th and ending on May 29th, because that's the entirety of term four now. And make sure you actually hit submit on there, otherwise it won't be counted, of course. Now, you can already see the syllabus and the online expectations, so you should have covered that. But I'm also just going to cover a few things in this video. So when you are going through these assignments, firstly, you will notice that a lot of stuff will get posted at once, especially at the beginning. I'm kind of posting a lot on day one, and that doesn't mean you have to do it all on day one, of course. Everything has its own due date. So, like, this thing is not due until the 21st. This thing's due the 21st. This thing is due the 21st, etc. So just because it got posted that day doesn't mean you have to do it that day. I try and give you a little bit of extra time in order to, just to give everyone a chance, because maybe you couldn't work on science today and you needed another day to work on it. That being said, it is your responsibility to check all of the upcoming due dates. Generally, I'm going to give you a good amount of time to work on it at your leisure. Okay, but what's important is, because I'm giving you lots of things at once, just so that you have a little bit of flexibility, it's important that you do them in order. Okay, so going from top to bottom is how I want you to tackle each unit. So here we have gene expression. That's how we use our DNA. At the top of each topic, you're going to see that there's a general question. So this is a place for you to ask any questions about the unit or the assignments or anything. And I can respond to those questions. And then if other people have those same questions, they can just read that initial response. So it's just a way to kind of make it clear for everyone what the expectations are. And if there's anything that isn't clear, we can get that clarified as quickly as possible. So you don't see any of this yet, but you will see a lot of it tomorrow, the 16th, of course. One thing I will mention is, like I said, a lot of things are going to pop up at once, but some things won't. So like quizzes, this one's going to be scheduled for April 21st and due the 22nd. So it is important to check the Google Classroom every single day, not just for due dates, but also for your attendance. You do have to do the attendance every single weekday. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the magazine project. So the magazine project, you might have heard of the project from, friends in the class, siblings in the class, whatever, because it's really fun, it's really cool, but we're doing it a little differently this term. So normally it's a thing that we just spend a week doing at the end of the term, but now we have integrated it into the entirety of the term. So what you're going to be seeing is this page right here, this document. And this is basically going to be a way for you to expose yourself to the project as a whole. There's a little area here for you to take notes if you think that that's necessary. Okay, you don't have to use this. It kind of depends on how you want to tackle it. But basically, this magazine project, you're going to make a magazine for a particular species. Okay, so you're going to pick a species, and then you're going to make a magazine for that species. What I mean by that, and all of this is outlined here, but I just kind of want to clarify. What I mean by that is that this magazine is meant to be read by your species. So if you're doing it on a northern cardinal, which is a bird, then you would expect a northern cardinal to read this magazine. So all of the ads should kind of orient themselves towards northern cardinals. The article should be written by a northern cardinal for a northern cardinal. Okay. And again, all of this is explained in this document. I just kind of wanted to preface it, just kind of introduce it, because we are doing it so differently this year, and I'm not there to tell you in person, this is what I want it to look like, this is what I expect, etc. So we're going to do a number of different parts for this project. I also have a document here, or a question here for you to answer. This is just general questions about the project, because I'm sure they will come up. This project is taking place of your final, because I'm not going to give you a final digitally, because there's a lot of issues with that. So instead of that, we are going to be doing this project throughout the entire term as your final. Okay. So it's very, very important that you start to review this project and its parts as they pop up. And I'll talk about that briefly in a second. But as I said, you're doing this on a single organism. And what matters about that is that you are actually going to be choosing your organism, but you can't have the same organism as someone else. Now that matters because I have created this magazine organism choice form. You're going to put in your last name, your first name, your teacher. The reason we do this is just because every teacher has the same form. Okay, so you want to make sure that if you're in my class, you don't accidentally hit Mr. Venegas. Okay. And you're going to tell me what period you're in, because you might be able to have the same organism as someone in another period, depending on the teacher. And then here's important information. You need to give me the common name. So that would be like, what do we call it? Right? So like a grizzly bear, for instance, or a sickle-bearing bush cricket, which is, just a fun common name. And then you need to find the Latin or scientific name of your organism. So in the case of the sickle-bearing bush cricket, it is this, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce. Okay? So you're going to do this for 3 organisms. You're going to give me your first choice, your second choice, and your third choice. That's important because if somebody has already gotten your first choice, I want you to still get an organism you're interested in. So I don't want you to pick an organism you already know about because that would be boring. It wouldn't be as interesting for you. I want you to do something that you're kind of aware of, but maybe you're not an expert in, right? And just pick something interesting to you. Maybe it has a cool behavior, or maybe it just looks cool, or maybe it just looks weird and you don't understand it, right? That's what the point of the project is to learn more. If you are having trouble learning, or excuse me, picking an organism, I'm going to recommend this website here. It's called OneZoom, okay, onezoom.org. And when you go here, you can just click on this tree. And what this will show you is basically the entirety of the tree of life as we are able to describe it. And so what I can do is I can just scroll and I can start to see like different organisms are popping up. So like here's the first living organism right here. Okay, the first ancestor to all living organisms. And then if I go down here, I'm like, ooh, I like insects, so I'm gonna follow the ladybug. And then if I follow the ladybug, I'm just scrolling in. You can also use these pluses and minuses over to the side. You can just kind of see like, oh, is there anything popping out at me? Ooh, I really like jellyfish, so I'm gonna go down here. I'm gonna ignore the ladybug, and now I'm gonna chase the jellyfish. And so I'm gonna look down here and see if there's anything I like. Ooh, sea anemones. Okay, so I'm gonna check this out. And basically, if you find something you like, all of the species are on these leaves. Okay, so this is a good way to find both your common name and your um, Latin name. Some organisms don't have common names, so you can't pick those for your magazine. Okay, but many do, of course. So maybe you like the grass crack anemone. So you would just click it, and it takes you right to the Wikipedia page. Sometimes that Wikipedia page is pretty barren. It's pretty boring. There's not much on there. You can also go to the Encyclopedia of Life page on here. It gives you a little bit of background information. There's some information about their conservation, so kind of like how they're doing. Okay. Green means that that species is doing okay. Red means that it is endangered. Okay, so it might be good for you to pick that because we are going to do a thing on human impacts, but it's definitely not necessary. And then there's also a third color of leaf that you will see, and I'm going to see if I can find one for you quickly. Of course, now that I want it, I can't find it, but it is gray, and so that is going to be an extinct organism. So I don't want you to do any extinct organisms. And I also don't want you to do humans. Okay, so humans are on this tree. If you want to look for something specific, you can just type in the search bar up here and then click over here and humans. Bam. Okay. And then if I look around humans, you'll see there are a lot of apes. There's gibbons nearby, old world monkeys and apes, etc. These are all just different classifications. And you'll notice that there's a lot of red next to the one green that is humans. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So if you are interested in doing an endangered species, here's a great place to start. Um, there's also a lot of endangered amphibians. Honestly, there's just a lot of endangered organisms. So there's a lot out there if you want to do something endangered, because it might be more interesting and there might be more information on it. So there is plenty to choose from. If you honestly have no idea how you want to tackle this, well, then just go ahead and go up here and then start somewhere. Be like, I really like insects. So I'm going to click insects. So this will take you to all insects. And then once you get there, you can kind of explore. Like, do I like wing folding insects? So like those are insects that can fold their wings, or do I like something like dragonflies? So I could like follow the dragonfly and then find a dragonfly species I think is cool because there's lots of cool insects. People are always afraid to do insects for this project, but actually insects are some of the most interesting organisms there are. So I recommend it. So this is just a resource that you don't have to use, but if you're having trouble, I highly recommend it. But again, back to this form, this is very important. You need to fill this out as quickly as possible. If you turn in the form before somebody else who chose the same organism, I'm giving it to you. So it's going to be like a first come, first served basis. Make sure you review all of the instructions so that you know what you're getting into. And as we go throughout the term, we're just going to have different parts of that magazine project thrown in. So, like, here's magazine cover part 1. Okay. And you'll see that the category is final exam because this is part of your final exam. So you're going to create a cover for your magazine, and kind of how I expect you to do that, what I expect you to do for it is all in here in the instructions. And I also give you some examples like, hey, here's what a magazine cover looks like, because who buys magazines, right? You're going to do some ads. So down here in genetic engineering, you're going to do an ad for your magazine. Okay? And it has to meet certain criteria. So make sure you read through the instructions carefully, and you can ask me questions. If you have any questions about the project, so if you're down here, you're the magazine project part, and you're confused about this, make sure you answer the question, or you ask the question not here, because this is for genetic engineering, right? Which is related, but really, if it's about the project, I'd rather you ask it right here, just so that we can kind of keep them all in one place, so that people can review them all in one place. Last thing I want to say is that quizzes, you need to be checking your due dates often, because sometimes I'll drop a quiz and I'll only give you 2 days to do it. Whereas, like, if I drop a normal assignment, like this Central Dogma web quest, I give you a lot more time to do it. Okay. So you really need to be checking your due dates and checking the classroom every single day. But that's going to be it for our introduction to the class. Most of you guys have used Google Classroom, or at least are pretty good with technology, so I'm not too worried about your ability to navigate it. I'm more worried that you go in order and you tackle some things every single day, like attendance and checking due dates. And last thing I wanted to mention before I sign off here is some of these assignments, when you click them, you're going to get a Google Doc. And so that's going to be your own personal Google Doc. So you can feel free to answer the questions here. Okay, so you can just answer them right here. But some of these assignments are actually going to be PDFs. Okay, and so I'm going to try and find one really quickly just so I can show you. Some of them are going to be PDFs, and that is going to require that you answer the questions elsewhere. Okay, so sorry, of course I can't find it once I want it. I know there's one way down here, so I wanted to find one closer, but it's taking too much time. So here is a document that is normally a PDF. Normally I would print this out and give it to you, but obviously we can't do that. So instead, I've posted it, and then you're going to do the readings and everything. And then when it comes to answering the questions, you're going to do it on this student response sheet. So this is your own personal response sheet. It's going to make a copy for you, so you can just answer the questions on here and turn it in. So it might help you to have 2 tabs open, one for the questions, one for the reading, whatever works for you. As long as I get the responses on this Google Doc, everything is fine by me. So that's pretty much going to do it. If you have questions, please ask them in the comments or in the general questions categories, or right now, because it's still so early, you can do it in the online expectations or online syllabus assignments.